In the affluent suburb of Scarsdale, New York, 45-year-old James Carter had served as a live-in housekeeper for the wealthy Whitmore family for 14 years. Known for his meticulous work ethic, James maintained an unassuming presence in the 12,000-square-foot Greystone Manor, where he lived in a modest basement apartment. Unbeknownst to the Whitmores, retired financier Charles Whitmore, 68, and his wife Eleanor, 65, a former art curator, the man they trusted with their keys, schedules, and routines, harbored a secret. A crippling $200,000 gambling debt accrued through underground poker rings and offshore betting sites. His downfall began when he reconnected with Marcus Hale, 39, a former prison inmate and childhood friend from South Bronx, who proposed a heist to erase his debts. What followed became one of Westchester County's most infamous crimes of betrayal. James's gambling addiction, hidden behind a facade of professionalism, had escalated after a losing streak in 2017. Desperate to avoid repossession of his car and eviction from his rent apartment, he confided in Marcus during a late-night call. "You got access to their vault, their routines. This isn't a robbery, it's a job," Marcus insisted, referencing his own history of nonviolent burglaries. James, initially reluctant, rationalized the plan as a victimless theft, believing the Whitmore's wealth would cushion the loss. He provided Marcus with floor plans, security codes, and details about the family's New Year's Eve routine at 1:30 a.m. on January 1st. 2019, James let Marcus into the mansion while the Whitmores hosted a small gathering for neighbors. Guests departed by midnight, leaving the couple to retire early. James disabled the security system, directing Marcus to the study, where Charles kept $50,000 in cash for emergency expenses. But as Marcus pocketed heirlooms from the safe, Charles awoke to the sound of a drawer slamming. Descending the staircase in a robe, he confronted James. "What are you doing down here?" A struggle erupted. Surveillance footage recovered by investigators showed James shoving Charles backward, causing him to tumble down the marble staircase. Marcus then delivered a fatal blow with a brass candlestick. Eleanor, alerted by the commotion, rushed downstairs and screamed when she saw her husband's motionless body. Marcus subdued her with a chokehold, later testifying that James urged him to stop, but did nothing to intervene. Autopsy reports confirmed both victims died of blunt force trauma and asphyxiation, respectively. Realizing the crime had escalated beyond theft, James suggested burning the house to destroy evidence. Marcus doused the library in gasoline, lighting a match as they fled. Firefighters arrived within minutes, but the blaze consumed the home, collapsing its roof and erasing traces of the intrusion. However, a critical miscalculation remained. 9-year-old Alexander Whitmore, the couple's only grandson, had been staying in the guest wing for winter break. James, who'd secretly resented the boys' frequent complaints about boring chores, bundled him into a duvet and carried him to Marcus's van parked in the staff lot. Driving north on I-87, the pair argued over what to do with Alexander. Marcus insisted the child be silenced. James, fearing identification, reluctantly agreed. Near the Hudson River in Poughkeepsie, Marcus stopped at a secluded dock. James later testified he believed the boy was unconscious when he was placed in a weighted duffel bag and tossed into the icy water. Divers recovered the bag 3 weeks later, 12 miles downstream, after a tip from a fisherman who spotted a floating backpack with Alexander's name embroidered on it. DNA analysis confirmed the child's identity, though the cause of death was ruled drowning, with no evidence of premortem trauma. The fire marshal initially attributed the blaze to an electrical fault, but inconsistencies emerged. Forensic teams found traces of gasoline in the study, a room with no electronics, and a partial fingerprint on the library doorframe matched Marcus's record burglary, 2014. Detectives traced James's and Marcus's movements via cell site data, revealing an unusual cluster of calls near the river. James's bank records also showed a $50,000 withdrawal from a PNC account days after the fire, funded by a check Marcus had deposited from an unknown source. Both men were arrested in Vermont, attempting to cross into Canada. During interrogation, James broke first, leading authorities to a storage locker containing Eleanor's stolen Cartier watch and Charles's engraved Mont Blanc pen. Marcus, facing the death penalty, struck a plea deal and testified against James, exposing his role as inside man. In 2021, James and Marcus stood trial in White Plains federal court. Prosecutors argued James had exploited his position of trust, calling him a serpent in the garden. Defense attorneys portrayed Marcus as the architect of violence. But jurors rejected the claim after learning James had disabled the alarm system and initiated the confrontation. Both were convicted of first-degree murder, arson, and kidnapping. U.S. District Judge Loretta Prescott condemned their calculated cruelty, sentencing each to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. At sentencing, Eleanor's sister read a letter from Alexander's mother. He drew James a birthday card every year. He thought he was his friend. Greystone Manor was demolished, its stone facade auctioned off piecemeal to pay estate debts. A memorial bench for the Whitmores and Alexander was installed in Scarsdale Park, engraved with the family motto, "Integrity above all." James's daughter, 21, gave a rare interview in 2022. He told me the Whitmores owed him, but I'll never understand how he slept at night.